When connecting to MySQL with PHP, you need to be aware you have a choice of options. This page in the PHP documentation explains that PHP offers 3 different APIs to connect to a MySQL database: MySQL, MySQLi, and PDO. If you're not familiar with the term API, it stands for Application Programming Interface, and it simply means a set of functions. So which should you use? Well, the choice is made simpler by the fact that the old MySQL extension has been deprecated and will be removed from a future version of PHP. So it says down here it's recommended to use either the MySQLi or the PDO_MySQL extensions. It's not recommended to use the old MySQL extension. The advantage of PDO is that it's designed to work with a wide range of database systems. So in theory, at least, you could later switch from MySQL to Microsoft SQL Server. However, it's not quite so straightforward because of subtle variations in the query language used by different database systems. The advantage of MySQLi is that it's designed specifically to work with MySQL. So that's the one we're going to use. You must be aware, though, that the 3 APIs are mutually incompatible. The old MySQL extension was very popular, and you'll still find a lot of tutorials that use it. Be careful not to mix the old functions with MySQLi. So let's get to work. Let's go to our editing program. And in the Hansel and Petal site, we need to open the mixed folder, and it's mixed.php that we'll be working with. So if we open that page, and what we need to do is to create a connection to MySQL, and we'll create a PHP block above the doc type. And when we connect to MySQL, we need to make sure that we actually do get a correct connection, or if there are any errors. So I'm going to create a variable to store any messages that come from MySQL. So we'll call it message. And it will just be an empty string. So message at the moment contains nothing. There are 2 different ways of writing MySQLi code. What's known as the procedural style was designed to make it easy to rewrite existing code originally created using the old MySQL extension. The object-oriented style is the recommended style for new scripts. It also involves less typing. So in my book, that makes it a definite plus, and that's what we're going to use. So let's create a variable for our database connection, $db equals, and then we need new, which is a keyword, and then MySQLi. It's typed like that by PHP and by Dreamweaver, but it's actually case insensitive, so it doesn't matter which one you use. And then we need to add a bunch of arguments after that. The first argument is the address of the server, which must be a string. And our server is localhost. And very often when you're connecting to your remote server, it's also localhost because it's local on that particular server. Then a comma. The next argument is the user account. And the user account that I'm using is PHP Web Des. The third argument is the password. I spelt Linda all with lowercase, and then the name of the database that you want to connect to. And in our case, it's Hansel and Petal. So those are all the arguments you need, clothing parenthesis, and then a semicolon. So what we need to do is to check whether we've actually connected successfully. So we create a little if-else block here. If, then db, which is our connection. Then we need to have a little arrow, which is a hyphen followed by a greater than sign. And then what we want is connect _error. So if there is an error, what we want to do is to assign the value of that error to our message. And if there is no error, the message will be connection is okay. And we will keep our fingers crossed that the connection will be okay. Now, of course, we need to display the message somewhere, and I'm going to scroll quite a long way down, and it will be just before this page open, div class page open. So that's on line 4849. Add a new PHP block there. And we're going to use a truthy or falsy condition if message. Now, message was originally an empty string. So if there is nothing in the message, then this will be ignored. Now, there will be something in the message, but later on we'll be using this to display a message only if there's a problem. Right, so let's have our little block there. And inside that we want to do echo and then double quoted string h2 and then message, a closing h2 tag. And then, of course, we need to have a closing PHP tag, otherwise we've got lots of syntax errors. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to connect to the database, and if there's an error message, we'll get that error message. If connection is okay, we should see connection is okay in that H2. So let's save that, go to our browser, and we need to go to localhost / Hansel and Petal. We can go to the home page and then to mixed arrangements. Load that. Success. Connection is okay. Whee! We have connected successfully to the browser. Now, of course, some people might have problems. So let's go back and create a deliberate error. Let's go back to the editing program. And at the top here, let's spell Linda incorrectly. And then try to reconnect to our database. And we've got a big bad message up at the top here, a warning, access denied for user at localhost using password yes. And it puts the same down here, using password yes. When you get this type of error message, it means that either that particular user doesn't have access to the database, or you've got something wrong in the username or the password. As we saw, I misspelt the password, so it denied the access to the database. So let's go back, make sure that we've got the correct spelling of the password, and reload. Connection is okay. So that means we're now successfully connected to our database, and we're ready to start querying the database to display the material in our web page.